If you've prepared well, but your mock scores don't show it, or you find that you're always able to solve a lot more questions correctly after the mock, then follow this three-step framework with a bonus fourth step, and you can get from a 70 to an 85th percentile, or from a 95 to a 99th percentile in your mocks and in the actual CAT exam. Hi, I'm Sanjana from MockCat, where you get directly mentored and coached by 99.9 plus percentilers. And in this video, I will give you the three-step framework which will really help you to see a significant increase. See, CAT is not an exam where they're testing your knowledge. They're actually testing your efficiency and your clarity, which means can you take a 3 or 4 hour paper actually and find the maximum number of questions that you can solve in 2 hours. This, as I said, it's not a test of knowledge, it's a test of strategy. Even the 100 percentiler is getting nowhere close to full marks. So the old school methods are not going to work. Here, instead, use this framework. Scan quickly, abandon early, and prioritize deeply. And I'm going to explain all of these. Now, the first thing that you need to do after you take a mock, you have to give yourself unlimited time and see how much more you can get. So at the end of that, you should have a table something like this. If your mock score isn't at least 60% of your unlimited score, then these are the usual culprits. Maybe you're anxious. Maybe you're rushing because of the timer. Or maybe you need to improve your test strategy, which is typically the most common culprit. And in this video, we are going to use this three-step framework and fix that. So the first is scan quickly, and this is especially important in verbal. See, this is what you're going to do. Once you start a mock, you are going to go for the question paper view, and you are going to quickly scan, say 1 to 2 paragraphs, something about 100 words, and you're going to choose your 2 easiest RCs and then have your third RC, which depending on your speed is something that you're going to attempt, or it could be your backup RC, right? Here I'm not catering to the very low percent of you where you are solving the entire paper. I've had a lot of students who got 99 to 99.5 with 3 RCs and VA questions with good accuracy. So that is typically what I am looking at, 2 to 3 RCs plus some VA questions. Now, once you have chosen your easy RCs, you can either start with them, or if you feel that you usually need some time to warm up, or you're a little anxious in the beginning, you can also start with the VA questions. Give yourself anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes at max and choose the doable VA questions, the ones which are easy, the ones where your accuracy tends to be high, and make sure that if there are any questions which seem a little tougher, you're not doing them now, you can just mark it for review. Once this is done, then you solve your RC starting from the easiest first. A lot of CAT aspirants feel, oh, I can always crunch in the easy RC in the last 5 minutes or so. But that's a big mistake, because at the end, you might either not get to it, or because of lack of time, you don't finish it or you make silly mistakes. Whereas if you do it in the beginning when you're focused, you're going to get that full 12 out of 12. And it's going to be a psychological boost because this was an RC which you'll feel that you've aced. If you're starting with RCs, do the same thing. Easiest RCs first, and your VA can either come in after 2 RCs. Make sure you leave yourself enough time for the third RC if you tend to do 3, or at the end of the RCs. Anything is fine, but remember with VA, so let's say if you have 8 minutes left, and typically you take about 2 minutes to get the questions right. We can't be doing 8 questions or even 6 questions in these 8 minutes, right? We want to go for 4, and we want to choose the easiest questions. So questions you're comfortable, or questions in other areas, but they seem easy, they seem shorter. And if you have any data questions left, make sure that you are punching those in. Who knows, you might just get lucky. So that's the verbal part. And now coming to DILR, we've got to completely switch gears. See, you would have read thousands of words in the verbal section, and not everything is important, and we are definitely skimming through some of it, not all, some of it. But in DILR, we've got to slow down, we've got to pace ourselves, we've got to read every word carefully, and we've got to think and solve, right? So here I feel it's worth it just to take a deep breath, or just to turn the page and remind yourself that this is a very different section. One case itself is going to probably be enough to clear the cutoff. Two cases is what most of us will try. Again, we are going to use the scan quickly framework, question paper view, or just click on questions 1, 5 and so on, and choose your two easy cases, and then you will have a third as a backup. And I'll explain this backup part. But first, what are easy cases? So easy cases typically tend to be DI cases. These have consistently been easy. Proper DI cases, I mean, not an LR case which just happens to have a table or a graph, but a proper DI case. You can also look at cases which are shorter, cases which are from sections, like areas that you are comfortable with, or these can be non-standard cases, cases with friendly numbers, cases which you can fully solve. Cases which probably are tougher could be cases which have, maybe it's a very, very long case, maybe there are many difficult numbers, 281, 231, 259, right? Numbers like these. Or it could be cases which you can't fully solve. So that you're going to get to know from the questions. If you have questions like, for how many people can we uniquely determine so and so, you can't do it for everyone. Or if you have additional information in the questions. If Meera was staying in Ahmedabad, then where was Shania staying? And you will have answer options. So you know that your case is not going to be complete. Another thing which I, as somebody who makes silly mistakes a lot, try to avoid is cases which have a lot of theta questions, because if I get that wrong, then I won't even get to know, because there are no options. So use these rules, and if you want to know more in detail about DILR cases, then just put DILR in the comment, and I will ask Vignesh, who's a 99.9 plus percentiler in DILR, to shoot a dedicated video. And if you're a MOCAT student, do check out the DILR workshop and the Engage framework, because there's a lot that will help you there. But now coming back to the DILR part. Once you've scanned quickly, start with your easiest case, but be prepared to abandon early. If you've prepared well, if you're able to solve at least 2 to 3 cases in every mock, then within 5 or maximum 10 minutes, you will know if this is not an easy case. By that, I don't mean that, this is going to take me 2-3 minutes more than the easiest case. It's like 1 minute above my usual average. That is fine, right? We are not going to be, perfect at picking easiest and then next. It should be a doable case. If it's a case where you are getting stuck, where you feel that you're having to go back and read it multiple times, maybe you're having to iterate multiple times or something like that, we want to abandon this early, and this is how I would do it. I would turn the page out. In fact, since it's an A5 notepad, I will actually leave a couple extra pages so I can pick up right where I have left, and I will mark the first question in this case for review, so I can quickly see the purple in the question palette and come back. Then go to your next easiest case. And a lot of times what will happen is you get that case right, you start feeling less anxious, more confident, you probably cleared the cutoff. And then when you come back to this initial case itself with a fresh perspective, you're probably able to solve it quickly. Maybe you missed a clue, or maybe you made a silly mistake. You can look at what you've done, or even start afresh if it's a short one. Again, make sure that you're not taking too much time on this, because you don't want to be in a scenario where you spend 10 minutes, then you spend 15 minutes on another case, and now you're spending another 10 minutes, and that means you don't have time left for anything else if this doesn't work out. So see how much time is left. Make sure that if you are still not able to get it, just leave it, go and solve whatever was your backup, and that is where your backup will actually help you out. So that's on DILR. And now coming to quant. See, quant is a section where we are definitely going in a little fatigued. We are done with 80 minutes, and especially DILR is an area where we've probably thought deeply, right? So here we are at the biggest risk, where we might just go with the flow and we might just start solving sequentially, or we might try to solve all the questions which we know we can solve, which seem doable. And that's a big mistake. Instead, here we have got to prioritize ruthlessly. Now, if you are targeting about 99th percentile, about 30 marks, then a strategy like the 688 is something which will probably work really well for you. I'll link the video that Vignesh has made for you in the description and the first pinned comment. Check it out, try it over 2 or 3 sectionals, and then incorporate it into your next mock. In short, you are splitting the entire paper into 3 different parts, and you are trying to take up only the easiest questions from there. But make sure that you check out this video for all of the nuances. In case if you are actually targeting a higher score than this and you're able to finish majority of the paper, let's say at least 15 questions after the mock, you might want to go with a different method. So for example, the 2-pass method is something which you can try, where what you're doing is you are reading the question. If you know that this is something which is some, you can solve it quickly, it's going to take less than your average, let's say about 2 minutes, and then you're going to go for it. If it is a question which you can solve, but either there's a lot of calculation, so it will take time, especially if you're prone to silly mistakes, you might not get it, or you know that you just need to figure it out a little bit, mark the question for review, get to the end of the paper, make sure that you're done with all of the easy, all of the doable questions, and then come back to all the questions like this which you have marked for review, right? Only if both of these types get done, the easy ones and the doable but longer ones, do you even go to the other questions which were left. But for most people, you might not even finish all the MFR questions. But what you've done is you've maximized the number of questions that you can solve in these 40 minutes. And again, I'm repeating, it's very important to follow a framework in quant, because that is the time when we are a little more fatigued, so we might not be able to prioritize as much. So having something like this in mind is really helpful. Now once all of this is done in a mock, you have my bonus step, and that is going to be analyze deeply. You're going to first start by taking unlimited time and solving, as we've discussed, and you're going to get a table like this. And once you have figured out this test strategy part and all of that, the next thing to look at is, where are you losing marks? So I like to call it, where are you leaking marks, right? Are you making errors? And if you're making errors, are these concept errors where you thought you knew something but you missed a small condition, you didn't know the concept or the formula fully? Or are these silly mistakes and calculation errors which you definitely need to slow down and avoid? This can be of 3 types. Maybe you're misreading a question or a clue, maybe you're scribbling and you're misreading it, or maybe you're just making calculation errors. All of these, slow and steady, and remind yourself that this is something you're going to do. So I, for example, read a question very quickly. So what I do is, before I punch in the answer, I'll go back and I'll read that last sentence, right? What are they asking? I'll make sure that I am punching that in. Right? Of course, avoiding theta questions if you tend to make silly mistakes is something which is helpful. We don't want to avoid all the theta questions. Some will be easy, definitely. But you can prioritize the MCQs, which are anyway most of the paper. So is it concept blunders, or is it silly mistakes, or is it what I call invisible errors, where because of test taking strategy, you missed out on easy questions. We've of course spoken about fixing that. Once you understand your unlimited score and where you are losing marks and what are certain questions which are maybe marked easy or medium but you're not able to do, this is what you are going to do. You're going to make your plan for the next 5 to 7 days, right? And that can be one topic to prepare in every section, one area to maybe practice it, right? This can be 1 or 2 areas where you feel you can do these, but your speed is a little slower, or there's some one small thing which you're missing, so you just want to practice out 5 to 10 questions so that next time you remember it. So this is something which you're going to formulate and you're going to follow over the next 5 odd days. In these 5 to 7 days, you can definitely take sectionals to work on the strategy to see if you are improving, things like that. And then you take the next mock. See, ideally, we want to target a maximum of 2 mocks a week, right? So you can take a mock in 3 days and then another 3 days from now. Make sure that you are giving yourself time to analyze and to actually work on the improvement areas. So this bit, if you do, you will definitely see your score increasing. And aside from this, if you are suffering from anxiety, if you're rushing because of the timer, or if you feel that you have any other issue, which maybe I've not discussed here, just put a comment and we will definitely help you out, because there are a lot of these unique sort of constraints which we typically give to our own students when somebody is facing a particular problem. So we'll do our best to help you out. One more thing which might be helpful for you is the checklist for errors. So this is what it is in verbal. This is for DILR and this is for quant. And if you want this in like an Excel or an editable format, just put checklist in the comment and we will share it with you. So that's it for this video. Try it out. If it is helpful, or if you have any other tips that can help the wider family, please put it in the comments and I'll see you tomorrow.